Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Chris. I'm here again with my friend Fernanda. Hello, Fernanda.
Hey everyone. Hey Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
You look cold.
Yeah, I'm a little bit cold, so yeah.
Excellent. Well, cool. So today we're talking about something that I've been really diving into over the last several months. Um, and this kind of really stemmed from the 3-day mastermind in Houston that we went with Steve Rosenberg, and listening to Weldon Long speak and Dr. Elko speak and a few others, and understand the importance of this. So it's something that I'm really into now, which is why we're talking about it today. And what is that?
Okay, so today's topic is importance of affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
So just to start with the topic, we need to know like what are affirmations? Why should I be doing this? So yeah, they're positive statements that can help you to challenge and overcome self-sabotaging, but I think it's something that it's pretty common in
Mm-hmm.
just your negative thoughts and beliefs.
Yeah.
And when you repeat them often and believe in them, you can start to make positive changes in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So some people might consider affirmations just to be unrealistic, like, oh yeah, just like wishful thinking. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think you need to see the affirmations in a way of repetitive exercises to improve our physical health and also our mental health, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that they're great. We are going to start talking a little bit more about them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So one thing that when Dr. Elko was speaking, I actually I was able to hear him twice. I saw him back in June, and then I was able to hear him speak again probably like 2 weeks ago. Um, Similar talk that he had, and one of the analogies that he used, and this was a pretty cool, is the garden analogy. He says our mind is a garden, and you have to garden every single day. And then he said, he asked the people in the audience, if you plant corn seed in the garden, what are you going to get? Answer is corn. If you plant green beans in the garden and you care for it, you water it, what are you going to get? The answer is green beans. And then he says, okay, if you put nothing in the garden, what are you going to get? And everyone goes, nothing. He goes, no, you're going to get weeds. So if you're not feeding your mind anything, these weeds are going to kind of go into your mind, and you're going to get overtaken by just the negativity. And we're going to talk a little bit later about how your brain is wired and why we tend to focus on the negative and be pessimistic on things. But yeah, so we'll get in that a little later.
Yeah, so just as Chris mentioned, like affirmations have the power to motivate you to act on certain things. Like for example, if you have bad affirmations, like if you're like, I can do it, I can do this, uh, you are not going to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So you have, as Chris mentioned on that great analogy, you have to, I don't know, cultivate just the things that you
Mm-hmm.
want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have the power just to change your mind. Affirmations are really good on that. Just change your negative thinking and replace that negative patterns with
Mm-hmm.
good patterns and positive thinking.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool because Chris is going to mention a little bit more about that and how our brains are wired. But yeah, it's just accessing to a new
Mm-hmm.
belief system,
Yeah.
and I think that's the greatest part of the affirmations. You know that it's changed the way that you think.
Absolutely. And so remember the training that we did with Craig Rochelle
Yeah,
for the mindset? He said, our life moves in the direction of our strongest thought. So if you're thinking negatively, that's the direction you're going to go. And I was
yeah,
having this
exactly.
discussion with my son last night, plays football for 8th grade, and he happens to be the field goal kicker, which can be very nerve wracking because everyone's looking at you and you have to kick the ball in between these two bars. And it's, you can get nervous, especially for a young kid who has never played that position before. So we were talking last night. He was telling me, Dad, uh, when I'm standing and waiting for the ball to get, snapped, And before he kicks it, he's thinking to himself, don't miss, don't miss. And he's focusing on the missing part.
Yeah.
And I was just telling him, it's like, don't do that. You got to say, I'm going to kick this thing in between those two bars. I'm going to look at those bars. I'm going to visualize it. I'm going to see it happen before I actually do it. And I'm going to do it. Right. So, and one thing that Dr. Elko was explaining, I'm sure he did this in June, but I know he did this a couple of weeks ago, where our brains are wired to survive, right? So if you see something scary, you want to run away from it. And the reason being is, back in the day when we used to get chased by dinosaurs and animals and stuff, we used our fear to get away from those situations. And your mind is constantly in survival mode, where it's thinking contingency plans. Okay, what if this were to happen? What if this were to happen? What am I going to do? And the what ifs are always, majority of the time, negative, and so your brain is wired that way. And what we have is, our brain. We have to rewire our brain. And the way we do that, so Dr. Elko described it as, you have your I think we talked about this in another podcast. You have your subconscious mind and your conscious mind. Subconscious mind is your habitual mind, where you just kind of do things without thinking. You don't have to think about it. You wake up, what your routine is. You brush your teeth, wash your face, drink water, whatever it might be. You don't think about it. It's habitual. It's your subconscious mind taking over. Your conscious mind is what I'm using right now. Is I know what I'm going to say, but I'm creating my words as I'm talking. So I'm using my conscious mind to describe conscious mind right now, So, but the way we can rewire our mind is using our creative mind to override our habitual mind. Dr. Elko calls our habitual mind the master computer, and our creative mind, our conscious mind, is a post-it note. And we have to make this daily decision on focusing on the right things. What exactly do you want? Who do you want to be? And you have to constantly focus on that stuff, because if you focus on it, like we said before, your life goes in the direction of your strongest thought. If you're focused and thinking about the things you want in your life, your life is going to go in that direction. It's not going to be easy, of course, but you're going to go towards that direction. So that's, kind of, I'm not a scientist, but from what I understand and learned from Dr. Elko, is that, there's science behind it. It's science behind why our brains are a certain way, and how affirmation statements can actually help us improve and get better.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that was great. Yeah. You
Thanks.
might not be a scientist, but that sounds like a lot of science there. So
Yeah.
so yeah, just going you can use affirmations in any situation, just as Chris mentioned with
Mhm.
his son, for example, at his game. So yeah, you can use it where you would like to see this positive change to
Mhm.
take place in your life. So yeah, for example, we have here some examples where you can use affirmations. The first one that we have is just raise your confidence before presentations or important meetings. And I know we've been all been in that place, just you said I can do it.
Mhm.
I'm nervous. I'm going to screw this presentation. This meeting is really important. Maybe
Mhm.
I'm going to get I don't know. This depends if I'm getting the job or not. So
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
we'll be in that position.
Yeah, and and for me, I look back at this speech I had to give a couple years ago. Huge audience, well, huge to me. It was like 1,100 people, and initially I was going to say no, I'm not going to do it, because I'm like, why does anyone want to hear from me? So I did it anyway. And before my speech, I was visualizing um, that people are going to be engaged, they're going to listen, they're going to be very like interested in what I have to say, and they're going to find value in what I have to say, and at the end they're going to stand up and give me a standing ovation. And that's exactly what happened at the end. So if I would have went up there with negative thoughts, it probably would have been a disaster. But I
Yeah.
went up there thinking of the best possible outcome, and I was able to get that. So I really think the visualization and the thought process behind it really helped me out that day. Yeah, so the next thing is controlling negative feelings such as frustration, anger, or impatience. It's easy to label yourself as someone who gets frustrated or anger or impatient. Like I've in the past, and Fernanda knows this, I've labeled myself as an impatient person. And I don't want to be. So stop talking about myself that way. I got to stop talking about myself. I need to think of myself as like, no, I am a patient person. I am. I might have high standards, but I'm also patient and I don't get angry. So talking to myself that way helps me stay in line, and I don't label myself something that I don't want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just as Chris mentioned, just affirmations can help you with frustration, anger, or impatience.
Mm-hmm.
But the next one that we have is just improve your self-esteem, and I think that's pretty important. And I have story to share here.
Yeah.
And yeah, for example, I started going to boxing classes. I was pretty nervous, first time doing it. I was just like, yeah, I don't want to go. I'm going to be the worst at it. I'm not good with sports because yeah, I'm not pretty good with sports. So I was just pretty nervous. So I get there. First class was awful. I have to admit it. It was awful. Like I was like, I'm not made for this. I can do it. I was like, I'm never going back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like for example, there were all these guys, just really tough guys, and just boxing, and I was just like standing there trying to copy what they were doing, but I was like, I was bad. So I was like, yeah, I won't do it again. I'm too bad at it, and I don't know. I'm a disaster at boxing. It's not for me. It's not for me. So I was just repeating that to myself, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can't do it. And then I was like, well, why not? Like,
Mm-hmm.
probably it was just the first class because I'm new at it and I
Yep.
have to change that. So I wake up in the morning, I start changing my clothes and everything. I was like thinking, like, you can do it, you can do it. Like, you're powerful and you are going to win this class and you're going to be the best at it. So I was just repeating that to myself, and I started walking just to the boxing classes. And when I was just in the door, I was like, yeah, I can do it. Like, I'm going back to my house, and yeah, I'm just going back. And then I was like, yeah, no, no, no. Like, you're strong, you're a
Mm-hmm.
powerful woman. So just go after it. And it's going to be the best class that you've ever had. So I
Mm-hmm.
went with that mindset. I was like, I'm going to crush this class and it's going to be
Nice.
great.
Yeah.
And it was great. Like, I really enjoyed going, and I started going more times and everything. So yeah, right now I'm pretty happy with boxing. So
Nice.
yeah, I had to change that belief, because
Mm-hmm.
imagine if I went to that class just with I can do it, I can do it. I would be nervous. I would be
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, stressed, probably frustrated, maybe at the point of crying just because I'm not good at it. But
Mm-hmm.
if you change that little thing, and this, as Chris mentioned, sometimes it's just uh, you don't notice. It's in your subconscious mind sometimes that you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I can do it, I can do it. I'm not good at it, and just like that little statement that you're saying, it
Mm-hmm.
can affect like all your decisions,
Yeah.
So yeah, for example, that was my example of how I changed that negative belief, negative statement with a good statement there, and it worked. So yeah, you
Yeah.
should try it.
So now you're gonna go there and like, I'm the champion. Nobody beats
Exactly.
me. And then
That's my mindset every day. Just
we're gonna
like,
see you in the UFC fighting one day.
yeah, just maybe next week I'm going to be
Maybe
there.
next week. Yeah. It's pretty quick. That's cool. One other thing that you could use is just for finishing projects that you started. So a lot of us, well, I don't say a lot of us, let me just speak for myself. I like to start things. I like to start a lot of things. I don't like to finish them. I like to start it and say, hey, hey, how about this idea? And I give it to somebody else, and then they kind of finish it for me, which is a good teamwork type thing. But there's some things, for example, as Fernanda knows, there's emails that come into my inbox where I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to think about that right now, or whatever it might be. Um, I need that mental toughness to like, okay, yep, this email is tough, or this email is a hard one to write because I have to share some bad news, or I have to do some research I don't feel like doing right now. And it's the mental toughness of like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do well at it. And I'm going to send this off to the receiver of the email, and they're going to read it and be very appreciative for the time I put into it. So that's just one example, but yeah, using that mindset shift of and your thoughts to finish projects that you started. I think we can all look back in our lives and like, yeah, there's a lot of things that I started and didn't finish, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, so that's one of the other things that you can use your affirmation statements for.
Yeah. So next one is just improve your productivity. I know we all been in that place where we said, I don't have time. Like there, like we have 24 hours of the day, and you're still like, I don't have time to do this. I'll
Mm-hmm.
do it next week. I'll do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter. I don't have time. Just and for small things, like, and Chris knows that because, sorry, Chris, but I'm going to mention that you don't need lunch because you said that you don't have time. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, for example, like you have time to do all those things, like
Mm,
you really do. You just have to say like, okay, so it's going to be a good day. I'm going to finish all the things that I have to do today. I'm going to, for example, I'm going to eat lunch today, and just looking forward to it. So I
yeah.
think it really helps also your productivity in that side, that
Mm-hmm.
if you wake up in the morning and you're already like programmed on, I'm not going to finish all these things, there are a lot of things that I have to do today, it's going to be an awful day because I don't have time. You won't have time. Like, believe me, you won't have time, and you're
Mm-hmm.
going to be all the day miserable, just thinking,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have a lot of stuff to do, and it's not going to happen, you know. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, so I'm going to do all these things, it's going to be great. Maybe it's going to take me an hour, 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, but it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
done. It's going to help you with your productivity. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's another
Yeah, one other thing that we came up with was overcoming a bad habit. So, just kind of going back to not finishing things, right? So, not finishing things could be a habit of somebody's. And if you use the statements that we're going to talk about later of, I am someone who starts and finishes my projects, you know, use it, saying that over and over again, writing it over and over again is going to help you um, with that habit of developing a better habit of actually finishing things that you're doing. So that's just one example of many. It could be a big thing like, drinking alcohol. I don't drink alcohol or whatever it might be. Like if you want to get out of a habit, you start thinking of yourself as somebody who does not do that, whatever that habit might be.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I can remember when I was young and I saw that my grandma was smoking. She smoked a lot, but just
Mm-hmm.
like a lot. And I remember just telling her like, "Hey, you're going to have cancer and you're going to die." I was really young, like I was like 6 years old,
Yeah.
and I was telling her like, "Hey, it's just like it's bad for you and you can do it. You can do it." I was like always like, "Hey, grandma, you can do it. Just stop smoking. Just stop
Mm-hmm.
smoking." And I remember just like a few times which will pull up her cigarette case,
Yeah.
and she was like, "No, I can do it. I'm strong, and I won't
Nice.
smoke again." So yeah, it's been like 15 years, and
Wow.
she hasn't smoked any cigarettes.
Wow.
So
That's great.
yeah, it was all because also the belief that she has, and also
Mm-hmm.
the statement saying like, "I can do it," the affirmations of
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop smoking, and it
Yeah.
worked. So yeah.
That's a great example. That's a great example. Yeah. So what's next?
Okay, so yeah, just a little tip here. It's just affirmations can be more effective when you pair them with other positive thinking or
Mm-hmm.
goal setting techniques.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you have this goal of being, I don't know, I'm going to be the best business owner in
Mm-hmm.
United States, or just whatever you want, and
Yeah.
then you have this affirmations like, I'm the greatest leader, I'm the, I don't know, whatever you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So then you're combining the goal and the affirmations, and they're
Hmm.
going to work together. So yeah.
Yeah. I got an example of that from my own personal life where, one of my statements is I'm in the best shape of my life. And in order for that to be true, I have to have a habit to go along with that, right? Or a goal or whatever it might be. So I have a habit tracker that I have where I mark it either a green box or a red box. If it's a red box, I didn't do it. If it's a green box, I did. So my goal is to have a green box every single day in the workout column. And it doesn't matter. It could be just, a walk, 45-minute walk, or a highly intense exercise. So, the habit plus the positive thinking really is helpful because, for example, like this morning, I was tired. I didn't want to work out, but I got out there and I did it because I have been telling myself for several months now that I am in the best shape of my life. And how can I be in the best shape of my life if I don't, you know, ignore my tired self and just get out there and get a workout in, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's an example for my own personal life.
That was good. Yeah. So we have after just how to write an affirmation statement. So yeah, we've
Mhm.
been talking about affirmations, but just like how can I do it? How can I start writing affirmation statement? So first of all, and the most important part, just think about the areas of your life
Mhm.
where you would like to see that change, where you would like to change that negative thinking, negative
Mhm.
belief. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's the first one.
Yeah. And so what you want to do is just really just sit down and think about this. Who do I want to be? What do I want to have in life? What kind of person do I want to be? What do I want others to say about me? And start thinking about those things, and that's going to help you come up with the wording of what you're going to say. And what you want to do is make sure that it's that the affirmation is credible and achievable. So, for example, let's just say right now you have a job and you're making $50,000 a year. You write down a statement. It goes, "I am making $1 million a year in income." Well, is it achievable? Yeah, it could be, but you're at 50,000 right now. So maybe say, you know what, I am making $250,000 a year. And then when you achieve that, then you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to up it. I'm going to say 500 or 750,000 or whatever it might be. That's my perspective anyway. People might disagree with that, but I think, if you were to say, if you're only making 50 grand a year and you're saying, I'm going to make $1 million, that's great. But I think you should have something that's more achievable in the near future rather than something that you might achieve in 40 years or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, then we have just like turn negatives into positives. So yeah, for example, as Chris mentioned, just like for example, I'm the greatest leader,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know, I'm really good at boxing, so you
Yeah,
just turn those negatives beliefs into positives. And I think that's a really minor thing, but it really affects just the
it is.
whole
Mhm.
affirmation process.
Yeah, one of the things that I was struggling with at the beginning of having a business is, gosh, am I a good enough leader for the type of business I want? You know, and I struggled with that. And I always had that thought in my mind, oh man, I'm not the leader my team needs to be. I'm not the leader my team needs to be. And that was constant in my mind. And then I finally started writing an I am statement, affirmation statement. And it's, I am an experienced and influential leader and people want to follow me. And I write it once and I say it twice every single day. And since I've been doing that, it's like that negative thought has not really appeared in my mind since then because my mind is focused on what I'm training my mind to think about. So, but yeah, that's one area for me where turning a negative into a positive. And like you said, it seems like it's such a small thing, but it's not. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It affects a lot of other things because I think of myself a little bit better and my team, I show up for my team better, you know. So, but when you write your affirmation statements, make sure you do it in the present tense. Don't do it in the past, obviously, because if it's in the past, you're already there, so you don't need the affirmation statement. But don't say things like "I will have this," "I will have that," because that's more of a wish. You want to write it as if you have it right now, because you want to think when you want your mind thinking that this is who I am and this is what I have, this is what I've been able to achieve, and write those in the present tense because it's more powerful. Your brain thinks more like if you think of it, if you write it and you say it as a present tense, your brain is going to feel it as if it is happening right now. So
Yeah.
present tense, make sure you do that.
Yeah, that was
Um,
really good.
yeah. So anyway, affirmation statements, kind of a big deal. You and I talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
It's good to do it. I do it every single day. I've been doing it since June, and I actually look forward to it. And I think everyone else, I was telling my son last night, I said, hey, look, this has made a big deal in my life. And I was 40 something years old when I found out how to do this, how to change my mind and how to think. I said, if you learn this at 13 years old, you are going to have a very successful life because you've learned at a very young age how to train your brain to think about the right things.
Yeah.
So, but I was pretty encouraged about our talk last night with my son. And then, I'm looking forward to seeing his transformation too, because it's going to be cool to see that. But yeah, so anyway, affirmation statements. Any other closing thoughts from you, Fernando, on this?
Yeah, so I think it was a really good topic
Mm-hmm.
for today. Pretty important. And I think we all do this, maybe in the negative way. We'll
Yeah.
think this negative affirmations, we'll do this. So
Mm-hmm.
it's something that we need to change. And I don't know, it's really helpful. So you should start, if you're not doing this, if you're not doing affirmations, you should start implementing this in your life. And it could be just like, as Chris said, really minor things, like for me, just like, okay, going to a sport, or just for grades, or
Mm-hmm.
something big like business owners, companies. So yeah, it doesn't matter, just have to change the way that you're thinking.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was great. I'm pretty happy with this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. Just one thing to add to that was, the negativity is always going to be there.
Yeah.
So don't think that writing an affirmation statement, it's like erases the negative. The negative is going to be there. What the affirmation statement's going to do is quiet that negative voice. It's just going to be quiet. It's going to be silent, like a whisper. And the strong voice is going to be the affirmation, the positive thinking. So if you're not really training that positive side, then the voice on the negative side is going to get louder, and it's going to affect who you are and what you do. So just keep that in mind. Negativity doesn't go away. It just gets quieter over time.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks, Fernanda. So you want to close us up on this?
Yeah, so just thank you, Chris. It was great. And
Mm-hmm.
thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode. Just wait for the next episodes that we will have. They're going to be great. So, yeah, thank you, everyone, and stay virtual.